Hello, welcome back to Just Jamming Along. My name's Chris, and today is a new format. As you can see, I'm driving my car. I am hands-free. I am safe. Do not worry. Are we a little bit obsessed as guitarists with improvisation? I kind of think that it's one of these things. It's a bit of a holy grail, this idea that we can sort of, effortlessly and freely play all over the fretboard and kind of make up our own solos at the drop of a hat and sound amazing. And of course, that's a great skill. Yeah, we want to be able to do that. But here's the question. What's it actually for? That's a real key thing to kind of think about. Improvisation in music has existed for hundreds of years. In fact, classical music, even some classical music, used to be written with blank areas of sections of music where the idea was that the musicians would improvise. It was a fundamental sort of aspect of the music. But I think that kind of fell out of favour, I think, with the classical music later on down the line. And then, of course, jazz music, blues, rock, and all that sort of stuff comes along in the 20th century. And we've got kind of, this idea, I think, of jazz musicians improvising, blues musicians improvising. You've got the likes of Eric Clapton, who famously says that he doesn't really learn any solos. I'm sure I've heard him say that. He prefers just to kind of whatever happens on the night is what happens on the night. But as an amateur musician, someone who's short of time, a little bit like me, so we've got other commitments, we've got families and all that sort of stuff. Just finding the time to sit down and practice is hard enough as it is, without then also sort of polishing up on our improvisation skills. So I thought I'd just have a quick run through and try and think of, from the amateur musician's point of view, what is improvisation actually good for? What purpose does it serve? First, off the top of my head, is it's fun. You might argue that putting on a jam track or playing with some friends and improvising is good fun. And an extension of that mindset is fun and interesting because it might challenge you in terms of your knowledge of music theory, scales, modes, timing, and all that sort of stuff. Creating a piece of music from scratch, or a solo from scratch that you can that is melodic and interesting and all that sort of stuff is interesting. But once you've played it, it's gone. Does it serve any purpose? Have you recorded it? Does it contribute to anything in terms of an output? No, not really. So that's number one on the list. It's fun, but I think on its own, it's not essential. Number two on my list that I can think of as purposes that it serves. If you are writing a song, perhaps creating and producing your own music, then improvising a solo might be the start of writing a solo. So actually the improvisation, especially if you've hit record and you're jotting down ideas, then improvisation might be the way that you could build a more permanent solo, a more permanent melodic idea that you're going to record, transcribe, tab out, whatever. So if you are writing music that you're going to keep, then I think improvisation can serve a purpose, of course. Another aspect of improvisation that's important is if you're kind of at that intermediate level or perhaps advanced level where you might be depping in a band, or you might have just started in a band. I mean, this has happened to me actually this year. A band asked me to start playing for them as their lead guitarist because their other guitarist had left. They had two gigs and lined up specifically that they needed to attend, and they asked me to step in. So fine. I stepped in, and delighted to, really happy with that opportunity. But what I would say is, I'm not, at my experience level as an amateur, I'm not an encyclopedia of songs. There were lots of songs that I don't already know, and I had to learn the set. And there were some solos of songs which were really key, and I've had to kind of learn those pretty much as people would expect. But there are then some other songs, really, where there is Cocaine by Eric Clapton, for example. I've not bothered learning the solo for that one because if you listen to him play it, it's kind of subtly different each time. So by being able to improvise, I've freed up a bit of time. I'm not sat at home learning solos for songs. I'm able to just say, okay, I know roughly what I'm going to play, and I can turn up to the gig or the rehearsal and improvise something. So that is actually really useful. So that's a good one. That's worth bearing in mind. But I kind of think that's about it, really. At our level, at our level, if you're an amateur like me, amateur musician in Somerset and Dorset, am I sad? At that level, I think that's the only reasons I can think of why I would want to improvise. But what's more important? What's really important, I think, when it comes to music is performance. Ultimately, that's why we're doing what we're doing. We're in bands, we're learning guitars. Yes, you could argue that some people are just doing it for a hobby, for their well-being and for fun at home. Fine, absolutely nothing wrong with that. But really, an instrument is designed to be performed and played, and as a guitarist, I guess the end game for most people is to play in a band. So what I'm really getting at is what's important is the song. And for the majority of songs that we play in a band, we rehearse them and we practice them. And I just mentioned an example where I might improvise a solo in a band. But even those solos now, those improvised solos, have kind of become my solos. So I'm no longer improvising them. I'm pretty much playing what I remember playing last time. So my concluding statement is, if you are an amateur musician playing in a band, playing covers, if that is your goal, concentrate on learning those songs. You don't need to worry about being a great improviser. You need that if you're going to be an all-round accomplished musician, yes. If you're going to step into a band at the short notice, yes. If you're going to be a session guy where, you're at a recording session and the producer or the songwriter is expecting you to come up with a solo on the spot because that's what's going to be recorded and tracked and recorded for good, yeah, you need to be able to do that. But for your average amateur guy or girl, learn songs. Learn songs, play them, enjoy them. Don't worry too much about improvisation. That's what I'd say for now. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. I hope that's useful. If you've got comments, might be controversial. If you're a professional musician, if you disagree completely, I'm really open to conversation. There's no right or wrong. There's lots of just different opinions and different ideas. I'd love to hear them. Okay, take care. Thanks then. See you next time.